What is up, ladies and genitals? 4eyes in here coming at you, coming through, and the mid-season patch has been officially released. It is called Black Ops Cold War Reloaded. I just want to cover some of the new gun changes and what seems to be a new meta weapon change. So this patch did a lot of great stuff. They introduced a new map called Miami Strike. It's basically a daytime version of Miami, and it is smaller than Nuketown. I can't believe I am even saying that right now. It kind of reminds me from Modern Warfare 2019, where they had Anaya Palace and they had a mini version called Anaya Incursion. The Miami Strike map is super fast paced with lots of action, and I really like it so far. They also changed up the HUD or the HUD and made it a bit nicer. I noticed it right away. I saw the headshot icon, it was a lot different, so I thought that was pretty cool. So with those things out of the way, let me tell you what they changed with the guns. There were some major buffs and some major nerfs to certain weapons. I have tested the majority of the new changes, and it definitely added some spice to the rest of season 2. Starting off with the Krig 6, they cleaned up the iron sights and tuned its accuracy while it is shooting over a period of time. I guess they called it a float. I don't really know what that means, but I guess the Krig 6 was floating after shooting a while. This isn't a major buff, so the Krig 6 is still as good as it always has been. Maybe it's slightly better. This thing is still a laser that doesn't move. Next we have the FFAR1 or the FAMAS, and it got a 12.8% increase to its bullet velocity, so it jumped up from 625 to 705 meters per second, making it the assault rifle with the highest bullet velocity in the class, which was previously held by the Farah at 675 meters per second. This is a small buff. Now I don't know if they tweaked the recoil or I just got better at controlling recoil, but it does feel like the recoil pattern seems to be lower. Maybe since I used it on the map Miami Strike, I didn't really get a chance to hit people from range because they didn't mention they tweaked the recoil, so it still has that major weakness along with its small magazine. Next we have the Groza. They increased its maximum damage range by 40%. This is a huge increase. I wish the Groza had an attachment where you could increase its bullet velocity by 100% like the other assault rifles. They are usually called the Ranger barrels. I think this is a small buff, nothing too game breaking since the Groza, like the FFAR1, still has a weird recoil pattern. Next, we have the biggest changes in this category, which is the submachine guns, and starting off with the Milano, this thing got a huge buff. They increased its medium damage by 10% and increased the medium damage range by 33%, increased its sprint out speed by 14.2% and raised its speed by 11% and increased its ADS speed a little bit. So this thing zips around the map and it's becoming my favorite pub stomping weapon. It definitely performs better at medium range, but I still think there are other SMGs that are better than it. It still has a low bullet velocity of 225 meters per second. So in my opinion, even with all the buffs and the hype around the Milano, I still think it's just a bit far away from the top meta submachine guns. However, this thing is an absolute joy to use. Next we had the KSP 45, and this actually got a buff which confused the hell out of me since I thought that this gun did not need a buff in the first place. If you watched my tier list on the best submachine guns, you know I ranked this gun first for close range use and 6th as an overall weapon. What they did to this gun is they increased its bullet velocity by 32.5% and reduced the burst delay by 20%. Are you kidding me? I was okay with this gun having a low bullet velocity because it pretty much is an insta-kill up close if you hit all your shots. Then with this buff, it increased the bullet velocity to 265 meters per second, which is 3rd in the class behind the LC10 and AK74u. Even with the bullet velocity buff though, it still has a hard time killing people at range. So yeah, overall I didn't think the KSP 45 needed a buff, but I guess this gun got even stronger. Next is the AK74u, and it got a major nerf. They reduced its accuracy while shooting for a period of time, and they reduced its bullet velocity by 23.4%. So the AK74u went from 500 meters per second to 383 meters per second, which moves it below the LC10 at 410 meters per second. Talking about the LC10, it got its max damage range reduced by 41%. It used to have the highest max damage range of all the SMGs at 21 meters. Now the Bullfrog is back in first at 19 meters, and it got its medium damage range reduced. This was another big nerf, but honestly I cannot feel the difference, and I don't know why. The LC10 is still a beast, and I think with the nerf to the AK74u, it might have taken the crown for being the best overall submachine gun in the game. Next on the chopping block is the MAC-10, and what they did is they actually gave it some horizontal recoil, which is actually a sneaky nerf that can throw some people off. Even though the MAC-10 had a lot of recoil, most of it was vertical, so it was easy to control, but with this nerf, the MAC-10 is going to be a bit harder to use. I still think a lot of people are sleeping on the MAC-10 because the gun has crazy potential. It's just a difficult weapon to use. That is it for the SMGs. I am honestly so confused on what the tier list for the best SMG is anymore, since they are all good. Those are basically the main things I wanted to talk about. There are other things in the patch, like LMGs getting their damage ranges nerfed by 25%, which is a slap on the wrist in my opinion. The big one that I still need to test out is the launcher damage being increased to people using flak jacket and hardcore. This should help people get kills with the launchers a lot easier. So let me know if you guys are enjoying the new patch and if you find any bugs or glitches. I think this is a great patch, and it seems like we're finally moving in the right direction. I will still need to do some testing with most of the guns so I can have a good idea on how well they actually perform. These are just my opinions with the little time I got using the new weapons and how I feel about the weapon balancing and the weapon tuning that happened in this patch. So yeah, other than that, namaste my friends, and I will talk to you all next time.